Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Thursday. Oh, they call it Friday Eve. This is Gigi. I'm on the track this morning. Oh, they say it's going to be in the 70s today. Not too bad this morning, not too bad this morning. But I'm going to stick to what Mama used to tell me. Keep on that undershirt. Keep on your clothes and your layers. Even though they say it's going to be, you know, warm, because this is the kind of weather, because it goes back and forth, you can really get pneumonia, you know, when you change back and forth. So I'm sticking to what Mama said, even if it might seem a little silly. And that leads me into my gem nugget for today. My gem nugget for today, listen to me carefully. Do what the Lord tells you to do, even if it sounds crazy. Even if it sounds crazy. You know, because it's just like growing up. Like I said, Mama used to say all these things. I still think I'm going to write that book about the things that Mama used to say. And they used to sound crazy. Didn't even make any sense sometimes what she was saying. But it always turned out for my good. And it's just like the passage today in our daily bread. And the title is, but I'm telling you, Jesus taught some controversial issues that people just thought was crazy. But he said, I don't care what they have said and the world has said. I'm telling you thus and so. So you need to follow what I'm telling you. For instance, today, we're coming from Matthew 5, and as Jesus is teaching, one of the things that he teaches is that, starts at the 43rd verse, you have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Oh my goodness. And this wasn't the only teaching that he taught that was controversial. You know, another place, and I think it's still in this film, you know, you've heard when it comes to how we deal with other people, eye for eye, tooth for a tooth. If somebody hurt you, you hurt them back. And there's some countries that still follow this. You know, if you steal something, they'll cut your hand off. If you in a place, I mean, there's even some places where they'll put your eyes out, or they'll cut your feet off. If you know, you remember Roots? If you try to run away or something, they take that part of the body that has offended or hurt somebody, and they deal with it that way. But he said, don't you know, just do the opposite. And I'm going to tell you, that's hard. That's hard. But if you do it the way, that's the problem today, because we think the things that God teaches is crazy. But if we do it, now I'm going to tell you, he says to love your enemies and pray for those that persecute you. Love them. Now, sometimes you have to love them from a distance, okay? Now, if you know somebody's getting ready to come at you and hurt you or shoot you or stab you, no, he don't mean to come up there and hug them, and you know they got a knife behind their back and getting ready to stab you. Ain't talking about that. But you love them in the spirit, and you love them by praying for them. Praying that the Lord will change their attitude and change. Let's change them, you know. But the bottom line, that you got to do what God tells you to do in the way he tells you to do it. I'm telling you, it's just so many other things that we could say about this. But the bottom line, again, God wrote this word, and he left this word for us as a guidebook. And like I said, what he tells you in the word, that's what you need to do, no matter how crazy it sounds. Because, I mean, I'll be the first one to be a witness, you know. Even I shared something recently where my dad had told me, people kept picking at me at school, and this very one time, he told me to use the lunchbox and hit the girl. And she got off me, but that was one of those things that I had to do it. But God gives you wisdom and guidance. But the best thing, now, I think back on that incident, because if we were living in today's, that might not have been the best thing to do, you know, when you got 6-year-olds shooting at teachers and all this craziness. Because if I was living back in that day and time, I might have not would have fought with just a lunchbox. I might have had a knife or a gun, or she could have had a weapon. So, you know, again, the nugget for today: do what the Lord tells you to do, no matter how crazy it sounds, because he knows the beginning from the end. And ultimately, he knows what's best for you. Now, I'm not saying, again, that you stand there and get beat up and all these types of things from your enemy, because like I said, sometimes you have to do it from a distance. We have to put this thing in perspective. Study to show thyself approved, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. It is true. Whatever the Lord said, we need to do it. We need to love our enemies, but let's put this in perspective. Sometimes you have to do it from a distance and still pray for them that persecute you. Speaking of studying to show thyself approved, join my husband, Pastor James, this evening at 7 p.m. on Life Study. Of course, Life Study is our Bible study, and Pastor James is going to come with a word that you can apply to your everyday life. Now, I've been having a few little difficulties. My computer's in the shop, and we're using another one. So we're hoping everybody can get on tonight on both Facebook Live. And when you go to YouTube, you might have to, if you haven't subscribed before, you might have to really subscribe to make sure that you get on. Leave some comments, like, share. But tonight is life study, life study, life study. That's why we need to study the Word of God, so we can put things in perspective. Because just as I used the example there, loving our enemies doesn't mean to be taken advantage of by our enemies, either emotionally or physically. But we love them in our hearts. We love them by praying that God will do those things that will even change them and make them a new creation in Him. All right, y'all be blessed. Don't forget, do what the Lord tells you to do, even if it sounds crazy. Bye.